People that have ADHD, our grieving process is very different than other people. Comment your experience down below. A lot of times when it comes to grief with ADHD, there's an object permanence there. We miss somebody, but it's almost like out of sight, out of mind.
I love that this content creator brought awareness to this subject, because I feel like this subject it's not really talked about enough. And as an ADHDer, it is a struggle that we have, ADHD and grief, because this was before I was diagnosed, by the way. So when my grandma passed away, which is my dad's mom, she was the person that kept the family together. Like, she was the unit of the family on my dad's side. And so all my uncles, my cousins, my aunts, they all went, and everyone was crying. I remember people were sobbing, crying. It was very emotionally stressful, and I could not cry. I remember I wanted to cry, but I could not cry. I was completely stoic, and then it got to a point where I just completely felt numb, and I dissociated from the funeral. And because I couldn't cry and everyone was crying, including my dad was very upset. Like, he was upset that I couldn't cry. And it's not that I didn't want to, and I'll go into it right now, but I could not cry. And he made me go into the coffin to see her. And I told him, I'm like, I don't want to. Like, I want to remember her when she was alive. But he was so upset that I wasn't crying that he made me go look at her in the coffin. And I remember, and as you guys know, as ADHDers, even though I didn't want to, we're big people pleasers, and we struggle with setting boundaries. So because of this, I went to see her in the coffin, and yet I still was not able to cry. And the thing is, with us, when it comes to ADHD and grief, we delay the grieving process. And the reason why we do this is because as you guys know, we have difficulties with emotional regulation. And because of this, grief isn't a quick process. It's a long-term process. And because it's a long-term process, it requires emotional attention. It requires not just emotional attention, but a sustained emotional attention. And we struggle with completing tasks because of the difficulty that we have to give attention to complete these tasks. So because grief is a long-term process, it makes it difficult for us to focus our emotions long enough to fully process grief. And because of this, because we struggle again with focus, and grief is a long-term process, it makes us delay the whole grieving process. And another thing is, like, us ADHDers, we struggle with, we tend to struggle more we tend to have more anxiety and depression than neurotypicals because of our other symptoms if they're not properly managed. And that's why I always say it's crucial to eliminate the shame, implement a system, and also, if your healthcare provider indicates it, taking stimulants. And because us ADHDers, we tend to suffer from anxiety and depression on a much higher level, it makes it further complicated for us to process grief, because struggling with depression and anxiety, it makes us, and that's what I personally experienced, and especially because I wasn't diagnosed at the time, it makes us become numb and disassociate, because our nervous system, that is how it reacts when it comes to if we feel like we're going to be attacked, if we feel overstimulated, we could completely disassociate. So when it comes to grief, as ADHDers, we most likely will become numb. We will delay the grief process, or we will disassociate, which, again, because neurotypicals don't process grief this way, it could be seen as a lack of emotion or just lack of grief by those around us. So I really love that this content creator brought awareness to this. And as a 30-year-old woman with diagnosed ADHD and certified life coach, I approve this message.